Dan was yelling in my ear, bringing me back to reality. "Old Bill's here. Man, we gotta get out of here." He pulled me away, and we ran, leaving Tommy's body in the ground as if it were in one piece. Garbage can. The police asked me about Tommy's death. They could charge me with murder, but no CCTV, no forensics, and no evidence emerged. I remained silent during the interrogation, and they had to forgive me. So I went with him. The kids treat me like a hero, but I carry a huge feeling of guilt inside. Tommy has a family, wife and kids, and I took him from them. I've been having nightmares since that day. It begins with a flashback to Tommy's death, but the dream becomes very real and horrifying, leading to the horrors of Hell Stadium. I don't know what this means, but I tell myself that this crime has affected me. My mind is getting better over time, but now that I'm fully awake, I see Tommy in real life. Am I crazy? Or does it haunt me beyond the grave? I don't know the truth, but I'm so scared and no one can tell me this. Manchester United is leaving. We drove north and the kids drank and sang along the highway. I tried to attend the event, but I couldn't forget the fear that overshadowed me. Manchester United's company is known as the Red Army and is one of the most powerful companies in England. It's also about regional rivalries, North versus South, rich men of London versus tough men of Manchester. In the Thatcher days, my father's team waved wads of money at their northern rivals and openly criticized the economic disparity between the two regions. But times have changed. Inspired by Ferguson, United became a dominant force in the domestic league, winning many trophies throughout the 1990s. The company will attack them away. Unfortunately, this game is very predictable. A great performance from our opponents, and United were delighted with a 2-0 victory. The boys were completely enraged by the full-time whistle and wanted revenge on Manchester United. We met the enemy in an empty car park near Salford. The Red Army, elated with victory, laughed at us as we approached. Our children go crazy when we curse and threaten to kill our opponents. Suddenly a gun went off and a bullet pierced the place. This was the red light of Manchester United fans firing in our general direction. Luckily, the flare missed our children and hit and killed a car parked behind us. My crew was now so angry that they rushed forward like a group of madmen and attacked the enemy. Bloody violence ensued as people punched. I hated violence that afternoon, so I was not satisfied. I took out the trash when necessary, but other than that, I stayed on the field and watched the bloodbath. Meanwhile, the car continues to burn behind us. I felt the fire on my back, but there was something else. An icy cold ran down my spine as I slowly turned towards hell. A figure was sitting in the driver's seat. There were flames around it, but somehow it didn't bother him. The man turned to look at me and I knew Tommy was laughing at me again. His eyes filled with hatred and he started laughing wildly, mocking me in the fire. Suddenly the door opened and the ghoul came out. The flames exploded and opened its way. His laughter grew louder and could be heard even in the hand-to-hand combat around me. I didn't say anything. I took a step back as he approached, using all my strength not to scream. But then I heard a new voice from afar, familiar siren. The next thing I knew, I felt a firm hand on my shoulder and I turned to see Dan. His face was bleeding from the heat of battle and his eyes were wild. "Come on, men, let's go," yell. After a while, we started running, getting away from the more serious situation before the police arrived. Arsenal is at home. The big one. This is the game I've been dreading all season because I know exactly what's going to happen. My whole life was falling apart before my eyes. I can't focus on anything, not to my family, my job, my football club. When I closed my eyes, all I saw was Tommy, the ghost of my enemy, who returned to this world to take revenge. But no matter how scared I was on Saturday afternoon, I couldn't stand it. I have nowhere to hide. The company met at our local bar, the Headless Horseman, where we had drinks a few hours before the game started. Students come prepared, equipped with cutters, screwdrivers, and knives. Violence is inevitable, but my heart isn't in it. I drank a few pints of beer in the bar, trying to drown out the words and battle cries of my comrades. But this turned out to be impossible. I asked for permission and went to the bathroom, and when I sat in front of the urinal, I smelled urine. I was drinking when I heard a sound that made my blood run cold. Laughing. A terrible gurgling sound came from one of the cabins. When I turned to look under the bathroom door, I saw a pair of black DDM shoes belonging to a man standing in the distance. I reached my limit as my fear was replaced by anger, and I decided to stand my ground. "What do you want from me?" Looks like a man's face to me from behind, I shouted. The man behind the door did not answer, but turned and laughed loudly. I swore at me. I was so angry I ran upstairs and kicked the door open but saw no one was inside. I was so angry I wanted to scream, but I pulled away from the bathroom and ran away. When I got back to the bar, I ordered another drink. Dan came over and realized something was wrong. "What day is it today, friend?" He grabbed his stool and said, "You look like you've seen a ghost." Ask. Instead, I grabbed my friend's shirt and pulled it closed so I could look into her eyes. "Tell me the truth, Dan. Did one of the boys make me drink?" My friend was surprised and confused. "Son, is there any alcohol in your drink?" "What do you say? I'll take that bad guy for myself," I spat. Dan moved away from me and put his hand on my shoulder as he answered, "Listen, Carl. We've known each other since school. All the boys here are your friends. Everyone's behind you. I don't know Dan. I think I lost it. Man, I saw something. I heard something. Do you remember that day? What am I doing?" Dan frowned, and his expression became serious. "Listen, Carl. The ship is turning. His death is sad. Of course. But he knows the danger. It was an accident. Man, you can't stand this." I nodded and tried to think of an answer. But suddenly Dan's cell phone rang and he held his finger while answering it. The conversation was brief, but Dan's reaction was swift. "Oh my God, man." A young man walking down the street. "Men with guns are coming at us. They're on the corner." A wave of fear washed over me as I realized I was facing a new threat, but I won't do this alone. Then held the soldiers up as the three boys finished their drinks, knocked over the table, and walked out into the street. We arrived in time to see the cows coming around the corner. Apparently they were planning to attack our company at the bar and were surprised to see us waiting for them. However, despite all our efforts, they quickly recovered and attacked our children in the middle of the road. I saw men punching, kicking, and stabbing each other in a now famous orgy of violence. But there was something different about this battle than any other, and I saw 6 armed men break through the crowd and walk towards me, both eyes filled with hatred, and I shouted, "Kill him, kill him, kill him." Suddenly I realized what was happening here. These are Tommy's friends. They know I killed their first son and now they want revenge. I knew I had to fight or I would come home in a box. I hold my fist. I'm ready to fight. I'm ready to fight, but I don't have to. Dan is true to his word. He and the boys came to my defense, punching and kicking the 6 attackers to make them pay for their reckless attack. Arsenal players were badly beaten and slowly recovered from a nasty attack. Only one person could come to me, a middle-aged elderly man wearing a mask and holding leather. He screamed angrily and attacked, but I overpowered him. I dodged the attack and rushed forward. I knocked the knife out the attacker's hand and punched him, hitting the bad guy again until my fist bled. My enemy knew when he was defeated and stumbled back into the street, bleeding as he walked. Now the entire group retreated, the brave ones turning into whining cowards as they fled. Our fists and teeth. Our employees are happy. Enemies come to our home, and we push them back and humiliate them. At that time, I also joined the celebration, raised my bloody fist, and let out a scream of victory. But my joy did not last long. I didn't see the bullet until it was too late. The glass bottle was flying through the air, and as he ran, he was stopped by an Arsenal fan. There was no time to bend over, so the bottle fell on my head, the glass breaking as the shards cut into my skull. I fell to my knees sobbing, blood flowing from my forehead. As we set off, I looked up to see Tommy standing on the pavement, seemingly oblivious to everyone but me. There was still a smile on his lips, and he chuckled loudly, enjoying my pain. But I know this isn't over yet. Tommy wasn't done with me yet. It was still a long way away. This derby match was one of the most exciting matches of the year and ended with our youth winning 3-2 in extra time. But I missed all that because I had to go to have the broken glass and stitches removed from my head. The medical staff did their job and treated me, but they showed no compassion. The knees has no time to deal with the corrupt people who make up the system. But that was nothing compared to my wife's reaction. Sally came to see me at the emergency room, but didn't stay long. He's really crazy, and I can't blame him. Look at you. What happened? Yell, I'm just having trouble in love. There's nothing to worry about. It's not true. He shouted angrily, easily seeing through my lies. You're running around with idiots pretending to be bad people. I guess you'll grow up and get over this shit and start acting like an adult when your daughter is born. What are you doing, Carl? I shivered, at a loss for an answer. I can't find a way to explain this to my long-suffering wife. Does the cat have a tongue? She asked sarcastically. Carl, you haven't been yourself for months, and you didn't talk to me. I've tried to be patient, Carl, but that's enough. I brought little Alice to live with my family. When you're ready to be a real man, you can call me. I gulped, and for the first time in our side-by-side conversation, I looked up and met his eyes. I saw only disappointment on his face, and I was deeply embarrassed, and my outer strength melted away as I stammered out an inadequate response. I'm sorry. Yay. He turned away. He rolled his eyes, muttered loudly, and then ran out of the hospital. Waiting room. Closed the door. I came home alone. I didn't get to meet Dan or the kids or anyone else. My head still hurts and I lie down on the bed, but I don't want to close my eyes. I walked back into the stadium like hell. A light was shining on me and a bunch of ghoul people were screaming for my blood. The next thing I heard was a joke, and I looked up to see the skull-faced referee pointing his bony finger at me. I didn't even try to run or fight back when I saw Tommy charging at me on the field, his smile wide as he lifted his heavy boots to kick. I felt a lot of pain when his feet came into contact with me. Skull, but this time, there is something different. Usually I wake up after playing football, but not this time. With great horror, I realized that my head had been thrown out of my body and was now detached and floating in the air. I still remember how I spun uncontrollably and recognized my surroundings as the Dominaries crowd cheered with pure enthusiasm. My head hit the hard rock on the ground, But my ordeal was not over yet. Tommy ran onto the field and kicked me again, using my head as a football as I dribbled on the field. When he reached the penalty area, he shot me powerfully, and my header flew towards the top corner of the goal and went towards the back of the goal, and the crowd celebrated. That's when the nightmare ended. But my hell had just begun. When I woke up, I realized I couldn't scream or even move. I was paralyzed, lying on the bed without a quilt. My breathing was worse than panic, but things got worse. I soon realized I wasn't alone because I managed to move my head enough to see a shadow standing in the corner. I knew who he was before I saw his face. Of course I knew. Tommy came at me and I couldn't outrun him. I couldn't resist. I couldn't even run away. He came towards me, his face showing evil in the light. I don't believe this is my old enemy, and I don't believe it anymore. Everything that happened to you must have come from the depths of hell. His dark eyes looked at my paralyzed body as if it were a piece of meat. Then he opened his dirty mouth and spoke to me in a deep voice. "Good evening, Governor. We haven't seen each other for a long time. I apologize for stopping by unexpectedly." I tried to scream, to shout all the curses in the world, but I couldn't make out a single word. I am at the mercy of the devil, and he knows it. There, my friend, he still held the knife in his hand. "You think you beat me, but you forget that it's a game of two-halves. You're running well in the race, but now I'm going to hit you back. Nearby style margin. Zerops, padding, zerops, beer." He slowly pulled my shirt, revealing my bare breasts. I couldn't hold myself back. I could barely breathe, and my brain went blind. All my strength and energy was gone, and I could only watch with paralyzed fear as he lowered himself. He started cutting my skin with his knife. I couldn't scream, but I could feel Tommy's pain, or whatever it was, as he continued to carefully move deeper into my body. I thought I was going to faint, but somehow I opened my eyes and saw the full effects of myself. Finally it was over, and I had to look down at my bloody chest, afraid to see what the beast was that was etched into my skin. He said, 1-1. "Okay, mate," Tommy said with a twisted sense of satisfaction. "Everything is ready when the final bell rings. We seem to be running out of time. Don't you like this nice game?" Suddenly I lost control of my voice and cried like a banshee. When fear hit my heart, I went out. The monster in Tommy's form just smiled and said, "I see you again, buddy." Then he came downstairs and disappeared into the shadows in the corner of my bedroom. It's been 25 years. It was a terrible night, but I still bear the scars of the attack and am still haunted by nightmares.